Okay, first and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham, Ruach Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Today, we're going to continue with the book of Isaiah, 1 chapter 6. So here it says, Isaiah's vision. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Right? And if you go into this word train, it's going into like the skirt of his garment, or the skirt of his robe, right? And what he said, this is the Lord's train filling the temple. So it's signifying, the Lord's his grandeur, his status, his glory. Verse 2. Above it stood the seraphims, which are the angels. Each one had 6 wings, and twain he covered his face. With twain he covered his face, Salakia, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. So, right, you can imagine, what Isaiah's seen. He's seen these angels, about the Lord's throne, above it, as he said, probably hovering, flying around. What it says, 6 wings, 2 covering their feet, 2 covering their face, and using 2 of them to fly. So you can imagine that. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Yahweh of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Now it says one cried, which really goes into not shedding tears, crying, but screaming out loud, shouting, proclaiming. What? So he's glorifying the Lord, basically. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Yahweh of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. In which, the whole earth is full of his glory, because, the Lord, he created all things, which we read in, you can read in Hebrews chapter 1, or Genesis chapter 1, or John chapter 1. We could pull one. Let's see. Hebrews chapter 1. Most High's final word in his Son. The Most High, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. So, the Lord, he made and created everything through, Yahweh Shai. He pretty much gave them the blueprint. Yahweh Shai and angels, he pretty much gave them the blueprint to create all things. But going back to Isaiah, verse 4, and the post of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Right, so the angel is crying out so loud, shouting so loud, proclaiming, giving reverence to the Lord so loud that the doorpost started to shake. His crying was so loud and strong that the doorpost started to shake, and the house was filled with smoke. Right, so you can imagine, like he seen smoke. Then said I, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Right, and you got to remember, this is a vision, that Isaiah is seeing. Now he says, Then said I, Woe is me, because that fear, Isaiah's fear starts to kick in. That's why he says, Woe is me. So basically, I'm done for. I'm done. I'm cooked. That's what that woe is me represents. That fear. He feels like, he's done for. But why? Because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Right, so he's saying he's not worthy to be in the Lord's presence because he's pretty much impure or unclean. really dealing with his spirit, which, because he knows he's not perfect. That's why he says, I am a man of unclean lips, which goes into the, the unclean lips goes into the words, or, what he's spoken or what he says, because what you speak is ultimately what you feel in your heart or mind, which we can get that in Matthew chapter 12, verse 34. O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, going into your mind, the mouth speaketh. In Isaiah knows this. So, going back, he's not saying that he's just a flat out, straight up wicked person, but he knows he's not perfect. He knows he's corrupt, which that just comes with being down here in the flesh. So he knows he's corrupt. He knows that he dwells among the corrupt, lives among others with unclean lips. So he didn't feel himself to be worthy to be in their presence, which is why he started to fear. Verse 6, then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which a live coal is what a coal that's pretty much been in the fire, it's burning. So you could probably imagine that the coal is red hot, which he had taken with the tongues from off the altar, and he laid it upon my house, which that's probably where the smoke was coming from. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin is purged. Right, so Isaiah was purified or cleansed from the angel putting the coal on his lips, which this makes me think of Ecclesiastes. Here, Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Right? So, like it says it was a live coal, right, that was placed on his lips, in which a live coal, it's hot. So you can imagine it burned, even though Isaiah probably didn't feel it, but it burnt away Isaiah's impurities, because it says that it made him purified, he was cleansed from it, which is the same as here, Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. And when you try gold in the fire, what are you doing? You're trying to get the impurities from within that you can't see, in order to completely purify the gold, as Isaiah was purified, and just like that, an acceptable man in the furnace of adversity. Adversity, those trials are going to be used to purify the Lord's men. So it says, and he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged. Right? And in the prophetic sense, or spiritually, that coal being put on Isaiah's lips in our time would be likened unto this truth, that purifies us, turning turning back to the Lord and walking in his ways, putting off that old man and being reborn. That's us being purified. So let's get Ephesians chapter 4, start at verse 22. We start at verse 21. If so be, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 21, if so be that ye have heard him and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Yahushua, that ye put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renowned in the spirit of your mind. Right? So that's what Isaiah was fearing. He feared that he was corrupt, so he wasn't worthy to be among them. But then he was purified. And that's just how this truth is for us. Also, when you get here, First Peter chapter 1. So again, start at verse 22. Seeing ye have purified, well, we can start at verse 21 again. We can start at verse 21. Should we start on? We can start at verse 18 actually. For as much as ye know that ye were not redeemed with corruptible things, as silver and gold, from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Hamashiach Yahushai, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who by him do believe in the Most High, that raised him up from the dead and gave him glory, that your faith and hope might be in the Most High. Seeing ye have purified your souls in obeying the truth through the Spirit unto an unfeigned love of the brethren, see that ye love one another with a pure heart fervently, being born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible, by the word of the Most High, which liveth and abideth forever. Right, so main point being, see, ye have purified your souls in obeying the truth, through the Spirit unto unfeigned love of the brethren. Right, so purifying the soul through obeying the truth. That would be likened unto, Isaiah, sins being purged, him being purified from that coal that was placed upon him. And going back, verse 8, Isaiah's commission. Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Right, so he's looking for what? A messenger. Then said I, here am I, send me. So Isaiah's like, I'll do it, I'll be your messenger. And he said, go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Right, so they were pretty much, go and prophesy to the people, something that they pretty much wouldn't be able to understand or grasp or perceive, what he prophesied. They weren't going to hearken to his words pretty much. But why was that? Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert, and be healed. Right, and this is not going into literally, hearing with your ears and seeing with your eyes, but spiritually, meaning they take heed or hearken to the words that he was saying. But it says, make the heart of this people fat, and make their eyes heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert, and be healed. Right, so the Lord was going to have his angels make it to where certain individuals couldn't and wouldn't perceive, no matter how many times they heard it, no matter how hard they tried, just no matter what they did, because the Lord didn't want certain people to understand, to purposely keep them from converting or repenting and escaping the judgment he'd bring. That's why he sent his angels to have it where certain people wouldn't perceive. And this happens all throughout the scriptures. You have Israelites who hearken to the words of the Lord's prophets, their messages, and a lot more who don't, that get caught up in the judgment that the Lord brings. And really it's those same spirits coming back and doing the same thing, filling out that same lot. Because this is going to come to pass in our time as well. It's like I said, it's the same spirits coming back, filling out the same lot. So you're gonna have those of us, who hear the truth, hearken to it, turn back, repent, turn back to the Lord, and then those who hear it They don't take heed. They just continue off in the world. And not only that, they might even mock or scoff at it. So verse 11, then said I, Lord, how long? And he answered, and actually that also what it shows you the power of the Lord, in that whatever he wants comes to fruition. It's everything is geared for his will to play out. You see, as we just read, he purposely blocked people from understanding and receiving his word just so that he can bring the judgment on them, just so that they won't be able to repent and escape the judgment. What scripture says, it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power. Hebrews 10 and 31. For reasons like that. So verse 11, then said I, Lord, how long? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without men, and the land be utterly desolate. So Isaiah said, Lord, how long? And the Lord basically said, until it's too late, until the judgment comes. Verse 12, and the Lord Yahweh have removed men from far, and the Lord Yahweh have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. Right? So what? Them being moved far away was them being taken captive, captivity. And there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. Well, that's pretty much meaning that their land was going to be deserted. So verse 13, but yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return and shall be eaten as a teal tree and as an oak, whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves. So the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. So it says, but yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return. Right? So that's going into what? The remnant that's, still in the land. The remnant who the Lord would deliver from the judgment. Those who return back to him. But then it says, and shall be eaten. Right? Meaning the Lord's going to bring more judgment, again. Because if you still have, if you still have a remnant left in the land, over time, the land's going to repopulate, right? With more wicked Israelites, those who weren't going to hearken to his words. The Israelites who are going to prompt the Lord to bring more judgment, in which he's going to send a prophet to, warn them. And then once again, he's going to harden their hearts to where they have ears, make their, as we just read, make the heart of this people fat, and make their eyes heavy, and shut their eyes that they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and convert and be healed. Right? So he's going to make their ears fat and whatnot to where they won't convert, and escape the judgment. And then, the judgment comes, and it's pretty much just like a cycle. Because like we said, this has played out all throughout the scriptures. But that's why, it says here, as a teal tree and as an oak whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. It's likened unto a tree, right, in which it's been cut down. That's why it says when they cast their leaves, that's the tree being cut down, but its stump is left, in which the tree can now grow back. That stump being the substance. If you look into that word substance, it goes into like a tree stump. But yeah, the stump is left so that the tree can now grow back again. But it says, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. So the stump likening unto the holy seed, being that elect, that remnant, in which the rest of the nation will grow back through them. So you have a tree, it's cut down, the stump is left, boom, the tree grows back. Then it's cut down again, the stump is left, the tree grows back. Because it's like a cycle. Again, this is going to happen in our time as well. You're going to have, when the Lord brings his judgment, you're gonna have his elect who was delivered out of the judgment, who's beamed up in the chariots to not take part of the judgment, that second death, that lake of fire. And through them, Lord willing, we be of that number, the rest of the house of Israel will be reborn. As you get it here in Isaiah chapter 60. See, it says a glorified Zion. Verse 22. A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord Yahweh, will hasten it in his time. And this is going into, during the kingdom, how a little one shall become 1,000, right? Because he's going to multiply, he's going to have children. So one man will end up becoming 1,000. Because through that one man, through his elect, the Lord is bringing back the rest of the nation. They're going to be reborn in the kingdom. And that's just like how he just gave the example with this tree, because they were cut down. The Israelites who weren't part of his elect, they were cut down, right? That stump was left, being his elect, in which the tree grew back. The rest were reborn through them. So yeah, that's Isaiah chapter 6. A quick recap. Isaiah has this vision. He sees the Lord and his angels. The Lord's, the skirt of his garment is filling the temple, signifying his glory. And Isaiah begins to be afraid because he realizes, he's corrupt. He's not perfect. So he doesn't feel worthy to be among them. But then the angel comes with the coal and purifies him, right? And then he's pretty much given a mission to be the messenger, to be the word of the Lord, to prophesy, in which the Lord would have his angels purposely block people from perceiving the word so that they can be caught up in the judgment, right? And then the Lord likens that unto, a tree, right? Because not everyone would be caught up in the judgment. You're going to have those that hearken and turn back. And those would be that tree stump who remain after the rest of the tree is cut down. But then the tree can regrow through them. So, Lord willing, this video was edifying in some way, shape, or form. Once more, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopeful elect.